Rookie Hunter is proudly brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation. If you'd like to support their mission to put and keep wild sheep on the mountain, you can go to wildsheepfoundation.org to become a member, renew your membership, or become a lifetime member. You can even get yourself some badass WSF merch. All of that can be found at wildsheepfoundation.org. And while you're there, check out Sheep Fever, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Foundation. The Wild Sheep Society of BC's Salute to Conservation and Mountain Hunting Expo is set for February 26 to 28 in Penticton. Details at wildsheepsociety.com. And check out our friends at North Arm Knives. From kitchen knives to hunting blades, they've got you covered from the field to the butcher block. Visit northarmknives.com. Welcome to episode 198. Sorry I'm late. It's just been a bit crazy, and I say this every time, but getting guests is not easy, and I figure you guys are probably getting tired of me going solo on here. This is a special episode that I'm running here, but before I get into that, I want to let you guys know that running a little contest for episode 200. Mike from North Arm Knives reached out, which was cool, and he said, "Hey man, I see you got episode 200 coming up. Do you want to do a giveaway?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I want to do a giveaway." So he said, "I'm going to make you a Lynx with the caribou logo and the number 200 underneath, and you can give it away." And I said, "That's awesome. Let's do it." So the blade is done. If you want to check it out, it's on our Instagram. There's only one of them. I don't have one. Kelly doesn't have one. Garrett doesn't have one. Only one person is going to get this, which I think is pretty rad. So I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do for a contest. I didn't want to make it too difficult. So here it is. You're going to send us an email, and you can do one of the following or all three. Each one's going to get an additional name in the hat. So number one, you can guess who my guest is for episode 200. I'll give you a hint. This person has been on before. Number two, you can leave us a rating and a review in Spotify or Apple Podcast. Apple Podcast is the only place where you can leave a review. Send us proof, a little screenshot, just so I know you're not pulling my leg. I like to read those. I like to see what people have to say. Number three, just tell us why you love hunting. Simple. It can be a couple sentences. It could be one sentence. It could be a paragraph. Keep it nice and short and sweet. I'll read some of them on here. Each one of those things will get your name in the hat. And if you guess who my guest is for 200, I'll give you a couple extra entries for that. So there you go. Anyways, this episode that I'm running is episode 1. And man, I was nervous to listen to it. That was 10 years ago, March 1st, 2016. And I thought it was kind of fun to play this because it explains why Kelly and I started the podcast, why we got into hunting. So we did a bit of a recap on our first 2 years of hunting. So this was the spring following our second season of hunting. So still very, very new and inexperienced. But it was interesting to hear that our sort of view of it and our commitment to conservation and all that was already pretty solidified at that point. And I didn't realize that. It was kind of interesting to hear that. I sound much different. Maybe I just sound younger. Kelly sounds the same, oddly. Maybe I'm aging rapidly and he's just not. I don't know what the deal is there. I think I was actually pretty nervous recording that first episode. And just for fun, that at that time, 10 years ago, I owned a commercial recording studio, and I would set up these like cigar chairs in the live room. It was a music studio, so there's like drums and amps and all kinds of shit all around us. Very fitting setting for me and Kelly. But the funny thing is that I had this music studio, and I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to own a recording studio, and we're going to jam all the time. But at the end of the day, I just wanted quiet because I was working with bands and it's noisy and shit like that. So the last thing I wanted to do was just make more noise. And so I, said to Kelly one day, or maybe it was Kelly's idea, I don't remember. I'm like, well, we should just start a podcast. We'll just have a beer and hang out and, this nice soundproof quiet studio and just chill. So he would come over after work. His office was not far from my studio, and we would just hang out for an hour. And that's how it was all born. And it's changed my life and my career path significantly, which maybe Kelly and I will touch on more in the next episode. He's going to be my guest for 199. We're going to sort of talk about this first episode and do a recap of the last 10 years and how it's changed our lives in a lot of interesting ways. So anyways, I'm going to quit blabbering, but let's jump into the episode. Some of you guys might remember the old theme music. So let's transition into it with that. And this isn't the full episode. This is only about 20 minutes or so of that one. So anyways, sit back, relax, crack an ice cold beer, and enjoy a little snippet from episode 1, March 1st, 2016. Welcome to the very first episode of the Rookie Hunter podcast. My name is Mike Peterson.
I'm Kelly Molnar.
So Kelly and I got into this whole hunting thing together, so we thought it was fitting for us to get together, and we're in between seasons right now, and we've been texting each other back and forth articles and just super anxious to get back into hunting. So we figured the best way to fight that off would be to start a podcast and share some of our experiences. So we're very new to the sport of hunting, and that's why we called it the Rookie Hunter podcast, because we're still very much learning the ropes of all this. And we just got our licenses 2 seasons ago. I guess, what are we at? Just a little over a year ago, really, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of missed the whole first season because it took, we didn't take the course until September, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is kind of share our experiences and hopefully inspire young hunters or guys that are in their late 20s or early 30s like ourselves to get into hunting. But we're going to give you a bit of our background today and share what we've learned from our first season and a half of hunting and hopefully you get something out of it. So that intro tune is very fitting to mine and Kelly's relationship because we've really connected through music and we've actually grown up in the same town. But Kelly wrote that song and we recorded it a couple weeks back, knowing that we were going to do a podcast together. So Kelly and I grew up in the same town of Trail, BC, in the Kootenay region of British Columbia. We were born just a couple days apart, the very same hospital. So we must have met at that point somewhere in a hallway or something like that.
You're drumming a beat.
Yeah. And Kelly and I, we grew up in 2 different parts of Trail. There's a lot of sort of surrounding areas. And so we didn't really meet until high school and didn't really become close friends until we both moved to the Okanagan to go to school. So I came up here to do audio engineering program, and Kelly came up here to university to do something that's much more sophisticated than audio engineering.
Yeah, no, I went into business.
And Kelly being a guitar player and me having a band up here, we ended up just connecting and jam one night and ended up being in a band together for multiple years. And that band sort of fizzled out and everybody went their separate ways. But Kelly and I remained in Kelowna and became very close friends over the years here and decided to get into hunting together. So it's been a pretty cool adventure over the last year and a half or so. And so let's get into sort of your background a little bit, Kel, and how you grew up and what sort of brought you into hunting over the years.
Yeah, growing up in the Kootenays, lots of outdoor activities there. I think that's why people live there for the most part. You got lots of skiing, golfing, Columbia River. Most of the people there do hunt. My family, my my dad didn't hunt. His dad did. My father-in-law is a huge hunter. A lot of my uncles hunt. So from my side, I think I kind of, because I didn't have my, the kind of father-son hunting type relationship. I mean, we did a lot of the other stuff like mountain biking, skiing, all that kind of stuff. So we were in the outdoors. Appreciation for the outdoors was always key. It's just the connection to hunting didn't really happen for me until we kind of started discussing it. And I guess we can get further into that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like you said, living in the Kootenays, I think that's exactly what you said. Is people live there for that type of lifestyle, and if you live in the Kootenays and you aren't outside, then I don't know what the fuck you're doing there, really. Mm-hmm. But it's just mountains and lakes and rivers, and it's absolutely stunning. And I would definitely encourage people to visit the Kootenays if you've never been there before, because it's absolutely beautiful. But our upbringings are pretty similar, except for the fact that my dad was a very avid fisherman and hunter. Yeah. And we grew up right on the Columbia River, which is a large river, and great opportunities for fishing rainbow trout. So we had an aluminum boat that we would fish in, and he had me operating that boat when I was about 5 years old. So I have a pretty strong connection to fishing the river. And I guess that would be my first introduction to hunting. Really, they sort of go hand in hand, fishing and hunting. Mm-hmm. But we also had a family cabin in the Caribou region, which is a great area for hunting. And that's where I was really introduced to firearms. He bought me a .22. I think it was for my 10th birthday or something like that. And my cousin and I, we would go up to the cabin in the summertime. We'd create these sort of collages from these magazines. So it'd be like, images of like O.J. Simpson and all this shit that we would cut out of these magazines, and we'd put this collage on a big piece of plywood. And that's what we would do all day, is we would just target practice and shoot at these things all day long. We spent so much time with firearms, and that eventually he got me shooting a 410, which I've got that. I think you've seen that 410 that I've had. Yep. It's pretty cool. It's a break action one that's super light. You could break it into pieces basically and throw it in your backpack, no problem. So I did get into hunting sort of as a youth hunter and followed my dad around, and we would go grouse hunting and that. And I was really into it, but for some reason fell out of it. And, there comes a time, I don't know when you transfer from being a youth hunter into actually needing to get your own license, but when it came down to it, I never did follow through on it. And that was the last I sort of ever was involved in hunting, even though I would sort of go out and be with them when they were, looking for deer or whatever. We were never successful finding a deer. And so I was never really part of like a full on hunt. And maybe that's the reason why I never really got hooked on it. But bird hunting, I was always very much interested in. And I thought when I finally did get my license a couple of years ago here that I would only, really be interested in bird hunting, but quickly changes once you start going out there and chasing deer around and that. But so yeah, that's kind of my background as far as hunting, and it's not really that involved, but I got to a point where I was just not interested in it at all, and I felt like it was wrong and cruel to animals. Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, when you're fucking eating meat, you realize
it came from an animal.
It came from an animal. So
yeah, somebody did it.
I'm not going to make fun of somebody that's vegan or bust their balls about it. If that's their choice, then that's totally fine with me. But if you're a meat eater and you've got issues with hunting, then you probably haven't done your research and you don't understand the importance of conservation, which is what we learned going through the core program. You kind of get an insight into how important hunting actually is.
Yeah, like there's so many, like for me, I was into mountain biking, I was into skiing, I was into using public land for hiking and doing all that stuff. But for the most part, I don't think those are the people that are paying for the conservation effort.
No.
It's usually the hunters and their license fees that are paying for the maintenance and its conservation of those lands, right?
I did find a stat on basically the amount of money that comes in through hunting each year, and it's a staggering amount of money. So when you see that, you realize it is important, and hunters are a big part of conservation, and even, you know, it goes much further than just guys going out and slaughtering animals because it's fun. It's nowhere near that. But I think, especially here in the Okanagan, I think the farm to table organic food is very present here, and so that's when I really started to think about what I'm eating, and I feel like people are more conscious about what their intake of food is and where it's coming from. Do you feel that there's becoming a bit of a shift in?
Yeah, big time. I think there's more evidence coming out now too that shows that animals that eat grass and free range food, like if they're a free range animal, they're much healthier. I think I was listening to Joe Rogan or something like that, but they were saying that 50% more omega fatty acids in those animals.
Right.
So I think there's some evidence coming out now and studies that are being done that kind of show a direct correlation.
Right.
But I mean, how more organic and free range can you get than taking an animal right out of the wilderness? And I mean, I think the other part of hunting that I never realized is how much effort and thought goes into making the right shot so the animal actually doesn't suffer.
Right.
It keeps suffering to a minimum. I mean, they're standing there living their life, having lived a full life or a long life for that matter, and all of a sudden they get hit with something and they're down on the ground. But I mean, that's about as long as it takes. Ideally, it's not always the case, but
yeah, if you look at the timeline of an animal's life, that's just a pretty small blip, right?
yeah,
And if it is a good shot, that animal's not gonna, you know, in some cases they don't even know they've been hit, right?
yeah.
So that's not always the case, and
We'll get into that later too.
yeah, exactly. But I also got into gardening 5 years ago, I think. And we live in a small apartment, so we don't have our own yard, but there's community gardens that are popping up all over town here. And we were fortunate enough to get one. It's actually pretty hard to get on the list. But there's some weird connection and a lot of pride when you grow your own stuff. And you know what's been put into the soil and the time that was put into growing those vegetables. So just that alone, I think, makes them taste better. I think they taste better anyways, you know what I mean, than shit that you would get at the grocery store that's not organic. And people can argue about organic and if it's horseshit or whatever, but I know from experience, if you compare something that's organic and not organic, you can often tell the difference, you know what I mean? If you think about an organic strawberry, they're often smaller, but they're bright red in color. And you look at something else that's been pumped full of who knows what, man. And the thing's the size of a fucking apple, and it's like this pale, like pinky color, and it has no taste. So really, I think that's all you have to do to gauge if something's good or not is just look at it and taste it. And
yeah, and it's common sense too. Like, you can't expect an animal that's cooped up in a cage all its life to really be that healthy, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So, and who knows what that thing's been eating, if it's been eating corn its whole life, which I don't think it should be, soy and corn. But, yeah, I mean, it's not going to reap any rewards when we put it in our bodies, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
Not as much, anyway.
We were able to, I don't know if you remember, we were looking after that farm here in Kelowna for about a month, and we were looking after horses and chickens and that there. And it was such a cool feeling because these chickens were able to run around on their own and kind of eat whatever. Of course, we would throw stuff out for them, but they were also able to eat worms and shit and whatever they could find, basically. But when you grab an egg from a chicken in the morning and crack that into a frying pan, and you can see the lush, orange, bright color, it's like nothing you've ever seen in a grocery store. So there's like kind of all these stages for me when I start to realize, like, oh my God, like food can be so much better. And it's very simple, you know what I mean? It's not that complicated. But once you've sort of experienced it, you've been able to eat these things and sort of discover them, you realize the benefits of it and how much better it is. And when you actually see the animal, the chicken that you're taking the egg from, it's a totally different thing. And I think that's what slowly led me into hunting. There's a few reasons why
Yeah.
I got into it, but I feel like if I'm going to continue to eat meat, it's really important for me to be part of the process. It would be a nice goal to only have meat that we harvested ourselves, really, and not have to buy stuff from a grocery store. So that involves getting an elk or something like that, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah. And I mean, fishing is a big part of that too.
Yeah.
I think we're both I've gotten into fly fishing quite a bit too. I started realizing as you get more kind of obsessed with hunting and that hunting season ends, it's pretty short if you think about it. You need something else to supplement that.
Definitely.
That piece in your life. So in the interior especially is a very good fly fishing area. So yeah, I've kind of gotten into that a lot too.
I think this podcast, even though it's called the Rookie Hunter Podcast, is really going to evolve into fly fishing and even hiking and more so just outdoor stuff. We're in between hunting seasons and kind of coming off the tail end of it. So that's what inspired us to start talking about hunting. But really, I think the show is going to be a lot about fishing as well, because we're not too far off from getting out and doing that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the theme always seems to, like that food theme is a huge piece, right? And I think that's why, for me, I really took the plunge and decided to go with you guys to the hunting course, firearms course. I don't think it's something that I would have done on my own, just because I was a little bit hesitant as to whether I wanted to get into it or not.
Yeah.
I didn't know a whole lot at that point. I wasn't reading a ton about it. All I knew is that the people that were into it were super into it.
Right.
And I couldn't really understand why. But we ended up going on the course. And I was kind of thinking that I'd be the camp cook. I've been over the last few years, I've been really trying to get more into cooking, ingredients and all that kind of stuff. So for me, that was kind of my one big connection. The other one was like camaraderie and getting everybody out there to hang out. I mean, you can say, let's go on a camping trip or a hiking trip. Everybody's so busy with their lives.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to get people together sometimes
Very much so.
To do that, right? But if everybody's into hunting, it's almost like it's a priority on their list. Like,
yeah, and
it becomes that thing, right?
So you're still camping and you're still hiking and you're doing all those fun things, but you're kind of out there with a purpose. And there's some weird connection or some, primal link in our brains that when you start hunting, I don't know, man, it does something, and you quickly become obsessed with it. It's, I don't know if anyone's listening that hasn't got into hunting, I think they might not get that, but once you start, you'll quickly understand. Mm-hmm. And, when I was considering hunting, and this has sort of been going over like probably at least 10 years, when my dad and my brother-in-law, my cousin, everybody was always trying to get me to come out hunting. And it was the same thing. I wasn't really into it, but I'm like, maybe I could just be the camp cook.
Yeah.
And I think everybody kind of thinks that. And then it evolved into, just bird hunting until finally having my license. And I think being in the core program is what taught me the importance of conservation, and in that it does make sense to go out and harvest these animals. It's actually good for the population. So that's when it started to, get away from being the camp cook and just bird hunting to, it's a weird process to go through.
And it's, if you're a type of person that likes to learn new things, it's never ending.
Oh yeah.
Like that's the other thing, is like, just whether it's gear, whether it's learning about animals, whether it's learning about plants, survival, knots, like anything you want to know, you can dive into it as deep as you want. And that's one of the things that kind of I'm really interested in with this whole hunting thing, is just learning the life skills.
Right.
I mean, you got to learn how to make a fire or build a shelter or do a certain kind of knot in real life situations, right?
You've got to be prepared for just about anything.
Yeah. And it helps you around the house. It helps you throughout your life. So
yeah. And just the fitness aspect of it is, I think that's my favorite part, is just hiking and throwing a bunch of weight on your back and going out there. And because October, September, November, December, those are kind of months where you're getting into winter and you're spending less time outdoors, but it's so nice to have a hobby in between summer and getting into like full on winter when you know we can get out and ski and all that kind of stuff.
Actually, the one moment where I realized that this was going to be like a rest of my life kind of thing was when we went out. This was the first fall, and we get up like pretty high elevation, and all the trees have turned up there. So there's like aspens and a bunch of other trees that were up there, and everything's like yellow, orange, red. And when I saw that, I'm thinking I've never really had an excuse to come out at this time of year to this height in the mountains.
That time of day too.
And that time of day, yeah, you're up there bright and early, and the sun's just kind of coming over the mountain, and there's all like, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And it gives you that purpose to go out there and do these things. And whether or not you get an animal, at that moment, I could care less.
You win.
I just wanted to go out there. Yeah.
If you get something, it's really just a bonus. Let's talk about our first season, but let's go back a little bit. We've sort of touched on getting our license. And I think an important thing to note is that if you have other friends that you've talked about it with, or know people that are interested, together, just like say we're going to do it, we're going to sign up and get our hunting and firearms license, because that's kind of what happened with us. Is I brought up the idea to you over beers or something like that. I had the core manuals that were given to me, and then a friend of yours was also interested. So it was kind of all these three things that happened at once that led us to actually going and getting our licenses.
Where 6 months before, hunting had never crossed my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of funny how life works sometimes.
Yeah. So I think that's really important, is just if anyone's interested, just sign yourself up and do it. There you go. It's funny to listen back to those. And like I said, it's interesting to hear how into hunting we were after such a short period of time. That, you know, two guys who were both kind of like hesitant and cautious to get into it, we were fully into it, which is pretty cool. So I think a lot of you new guys that are tuning in probably found this interesting, maybe, if you didn't know our origin story. And I think a lot of you can probably relate to it. Just, you know, some of the hesitations we had and wanting to be the camp chef and only hunt birds. It's interesting how quickly that all changes. So Kelly is going to join me for episode 199. We're booked to record that tonight. I got my special guest for episode 200. So you can look forward to both of those episodes next week. I'm hoping to put one on Tuesday, the next one on Thursday. And on the episode 200, I'm going to announce the winner of that lynx knife from North Arm Knives. So send in your submissions with my criteria to get your name entered. And I'll announce the winner. I'm pretty stoked on that knife. It's beautiful. Check out our Instagram if you want to have a look at it. But I will talk to you guys next week. Cheers.